Hey guys, welcome to today's vlog. So in today's tutorial we're going to be sewing this beautiful piece, a jumpsuit, and it's a very simple technique. So we'll be needing the following measurements, and I'd already gone to cut out my fabric for the trouser. It's actually in two pieces and the width is 33 inches wide, while the length is 44 inches long. So my actual trouser length is 42, so I added 2 extra inches for my seam allowance and also for the folding at the bottom of my trouser. So I'm cutting it into 4 pieces now. It had already been cut into 2 before, so I'm just going ahead to cut into 4. To get the actual size of your fabric that you'll be needing for your trouser, it is important to take your thigh circumference. Whatever you get after taking your thigh circumference, you divide by 2. For me, I added 4 inches extra seam allowance to it. Okay, so that's how I got the width of this trouser you are seeing here right now. So I've already gone ahead to cut out my flap. It was 12 inches from the waist to the flap, then 5 inches in. And then from the bottom of my trouser, I'm trying to get that trouser shape. So from the bottom, please ensure it is, for me, I didn't want it to be a sort of a palazzo, kind of, not so wide. So from the bottom of this trouser is about 4 inches, and then I just took it up to the flap. So first of all, take the measurement at the bottom first. Ensure it is about either 2, 3 or 4 inches, whatever size you want. If you want your own to be very wide, you can make it 2 inches, but I wanted mine not to be very wide, so it was about 4 inches first that I removed, and then I took it to the flap. Then on the other side, I removed 2 inches, as you can see, and then I took it up till around the pocket area, as you can see. So that is how I usually shape my trousers. So that being said, I just went ahead to cut out my trouser. It's a very simple technique which I believe any beginner can actually cut out or draft. So now I'm done cutting out my trouser. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'll separate 2 of my fabric. I'm separating it 2 each. So on one part of it, on one portion of it, I'm going to be making a little adjustment around the waist. So what I did was to remove 1 inch from the waist, and this one I'm actually removing 1 inch from the waist is going to be the front of the trouser. So I remove 1 inch from the waist there, and as you can see, I'm also removing 1/2 inch from the flap. The reason why this is done is to avoid the squeezing around the flap. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and cut it out. Please take note of this actual fabric where your adjustment is being made on, because it is on the same fabric we're going to be cutting out our pockets. So I usually use the one that has the drawing, so please ensure you use the fabric that has the drawing, so it will be very easy for you to identify. So now I already have made the differences between the front part of the trouser and the back part. So I went over to the sewing machine to sew the flap of the back of the trouser and also of the front. As you can see, I have done that. I actually illustrated with my finger. The L shape there is where you sew on the machine. So that being done, next we're going to be cutting out our pockets on the front portion of our trouser. Like I told us, this portion is where an adjustment is made on the waist and also on the flap. Please take note of that. It's a very simple technique. So for my pocket, I've gone ahead to cut out 4 pieces of fabric. I actually forgot to give the details of the pocket sizes. You can actually do that on your own. It's very simple. Depends on how deep you want your trouser to be. So what I've done then now is I cut out 4 pieces. So I've removed 2 of them, and then I placed the remaining 2 on top of my trouser, my front fabric of my trouser. So I'm going to be cutting out these 2 pieces along with the trouser. So please be very observant as to what I'm doing here right now. So I'd gone ahead to cut out the L shape on the pocket. So next I'll be flipping my trouser to the right sides, and then you see where I'm placing the fabric for the pockets on the pocket area. So I'll go over to the sewing machine now to sew that L shape on my trouser. So now I'll be flipping the pocket over to the other side, and then I'll go over to the sewing machine to run a stop stitch on the pocket. So I've done that already, and then the next thing I did was to flip my trouser to the wrong sides now, no longer the right side. And then I took the remaining pocket fabric, the 2 remaining fabric which I kept aside, and then I brought them now, and I'm placing them on top of the one that has been sewn on the trouser. And then I'll go over to the sewing machine to stitch both pocket fabric together. Please ensure you don't stitch these 2 fabric along with your trouser. So ensure it is removed while you are sewing on your machine. So I've gone ahead and it actually came out beautifully. As you can see, I'm checking it out by putting my hands into the pocket. So it's a very simple technique in making a trouser or a jumpsuit with pockets. So now that we are done with that, I went over to get my back fabric of my trouser, and then I'm placing the right sides facing each other. And then first of all, I'm going to ensure that the flap area is properly placed. Please ensure you sew the flap first. As you can see, I am placing the flap together and ensuring they are properly aligned, and then I'll go over to the sewing machine and run my stitches on both sides of my trousers. So after that, I'll be sewing the 2 sides as you see me illustrate with my finger. So now I'm done sewing all the sides, the flaps and the 2 sides here. So I'm now going to be making adjustments on my waist. So after running my stitches, usually the waist is always very wide. So what I'll be doing is I try to hold the 2 edges together, and then you can see what I'm trying to do there. I'm trying to adjust to get the flap shape so as to do my cutting. Please ensure you take note of this. So after folding the flap area out, I'm going to be taking 1 or 2 inches away from the flap. Please ensure it does not start from the beginning of the flap. As you can see, the way I'm taking my curve, first of all, take your measurement of 1 inch around the waist first, or 2 inches. Then curve it into the flap a little. Ensure it does not get to the base of the flap. So I'll also be doing that on the other side. As you can see, I'm trying to get the other side of my flap area so I can actually take the same measurement. So for this side, I removed 2 inches. For the back side, I'm going to be taking like 1 or 2 inches. Please ensure you do not cut out this fabric. Take the measurements first, then go over to the sewing machine and sew it. After that, position your fabric properly again and take your waist measurement. So adjust it until you get your perfect waist measurement. So now I've been able to get my waist measurement rightly. So I'll be cutting out the top portion of my jumpsuits. So first of all, as you can see, I had already gone ahead to cut out 1 yard of the fabric I'll be needing to cut the top portion of my jumpsuit. So I'm actually trying to get the exact fabric required for cutting the front part of the top. So the length of the top is 19 inches. For this particular one, I actually made a mistake while cutting it. And so if you want to cut yours, ensure the top is long enough that you do not need to add a band around the waist should it be shorter. So my top length is 19 inches. And then for this, if you want to get the fabric for the top, please ensure you add like 2 or 4 inches. I usually advise you add 4 inches to your bust circumference after dividing by 2. So for the front portion, the first measurement you see me taking there is the shoulder to shoulder measurement, and then I went in by 10 inches to get the bust circumference measurement or the bust line. So to get my armhole measurement, I'll be going up now, as you can see, by 2 inches. So that line you see me taking there is partially the chest line measurement, so I didn't bother to measure it in full. So the next line you see me taking there is the waistline. So this was what I was talking about. I wasn't supposed to cut it this way. It was supposed to be longer. So ensure yours is longer. So next, I'll be taking my bust circumference, and then you see I added 2 inches to it. So your bust circumference is divided into 4, and then you add extra 2 inches to it to get your armhole measurement. So that's what you see me taking there right now. Then my waist, I took the neck measurement first. So my neck measurement was actually 4.5 inches into 4 inches. So it's 4.5 inches into 4 inches. So that's my neck measurement. So next, I'll be removing like 1 inch to get my shoulder slope, as you see me illustrate there. So that's like 1 inch from the shoulder there to get the shoulder slope. So my waist measurement, like I said earlier, is 32 inches. So I divided it by 4 and I got 8 inches, and then I added two extra seam allowance to it. And thereafter I went ahead to cut out my fabric. So after cutting out this neck pattern, I actually changed it later on. I made a deeper round neck instead of a boat neck. So whatever neck pattern you like, you can actually make yours. So now I'm done cutting out the front pattern of the top. So I'm going to be using it to cut out the back pattern of our top for the jumpsuit. So as you can see, I am leaving out like a zipper allowance. So the back fabric is usually bigger than the front, reasons being that there should be enough fabric for zip allowance. So another adjustment I made there that was different from the front is that the front neck is deeper than that of the back. So the back was just 2 inches deep, while the front was 4 inches deep. So that's all the adjustment made, which is just a little different from that of the back of the front, sorry. So next I went ahead to use my fabric to cut out my lining piece also. So I didn't bother to show us that, it's just the same method. So next I'll be going over to the sewing machine to sew my lining on my actual fabric, and then after that I simply flipped it over to the right side and placed my back fabric on the front fabric, right sides facing each other. So as a beginner, I advise you retake your measurements again. First your bust circumference measurement and then your waist measurement again before going over to the sewing machine to sew them together. So as you can see, I'm retaking my measurements again, and then I'll be joining the shoulders together and then the sides together. So I've already done that, and you can see it's coming out neatly and very beautifully. So now I'll be losing the back of my trouser. So as you can see, I'm trying to lose the back portion of my trouser so I can join the top to the trouser. So because the top was actually shorter than it was supposed to be, I had to add like a band on the trouser. So after loosening this trouser now, I'll be attaching a band on it so that it will be long enough for the top. If not, I would not be able to wear it. So ensure that this opening is not less than 6 inches. So I'm trying to get the right length for it, so please ensure it's not less than 6 inches. So that being done, you can see now I'm trying to attach like a band on the trouser so it will be long enough. So in case you made a mistake while sewing yours, you can attach a band on it, but it's also nice if you sew yours without a band. So the reason why my jumpsuit is having a band is because the top was shorter than it ought to be. So that's the band there. It was a bit wide because the top was quite short. So now I'll be attaching the top to the trouser. So first of all, I'm trying to make a notch at the middle of the front portion of the top, and then also I'll be making a notch at the middle portion of the trouser. So please ensure you do that so they would align properly. So I've been able to get the middle of it, so I'll just make a notch there, and then I'll be placing my top on it. So as you can see, I'm placing the top right sides facing each other. So please ensure you take note of all the simple steps. And then I will not start my sewing from the edge. I'm starting it from the middle where I made a notch, because I'm not going to be using pins to hold them first before sewing it. So now I'm done sewing it on my machine, and as you can see, it is properly aligned. So please ensure, if you're a beginner and you do not understand how to attach your top to your trouser, please use your pins to hold them in place so they'll properly align. So next I'll be folding the edges of the trouser, and I'll be going over to the sewing machine to run it through. So basically that's where this video will be ending today. So thanks guys for watching. See you in our next video. Bye.